Hi, I'm Michelle Begue with a special edition of Latin America Now. But first, as always, our news trivia. The Summer Olympics are around the corner. They'll be held in Paris in July. But which of these Latin American cities has never hosted a Summer Olympics? We'll have the answer later. This year, Latin America had its ups and downs, but these are some of the news events that we will follow in 2024. Citizens from several Latin American countries will be heading out to vote for new leaders. The first is El Salvador on February 4th. President Nayib Bukele has actually stepped down to mount his re-election bid that has been widely embraced by voters, despite there being an original law that banned consecutive presidential terms. Bukele is not only being allowed to run, but is also expected to easily win the elections, as recent polls show he has a 90% approval rating among citizens, who have thanked him for a harsh crackdown on drug gangs. Then in May, Panamanians and citizens from Dominican Republic will vote for new leadership in their countries. In Panama, several candidates are on the ballot, including former President Ricardo Martinelli, who is accused of laundering money from bribes by the Brazilian construction group Odebrecht. The hearings will be held after the elections. In the Dominican Republic, current President Luis Abinader will also be running for re-election. When Mexicans go to vote for their new president in June, they will choose between two women, the first in the country's history. One of the candidates is former Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the longtime political ally of current President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And Mexico's opposition coalition is backing former Senator Xochitl Gálvez from the conservative PAN party. And presidential election season will end with Uruguay with the first general elections in October and a possible runoff vote for November. President Luis Lacalle Pou will not be able to go up for re-election as the Constitution bars a president from immediate re-election. Now let's go to my colleague Dan Collyns, who has a special report on what we can and can't expect of the El Niño climate phenomenon.
Michelle, Peruvians are expecting heavy weather for 2024. The worst effects of the El Niño weather phenomenon are expected to make windfall next year. Previous El Niño years have seen torrential rains sparking intense flooding and landslides. Peruvians and Ecuadorians still have recent memories of the terrible consequences of this climatic eventuality in 2017 and as far back as 1998, when it resulted in dozens of deaths, displaced tens of thousands of people, and caused billions of dollars in damages. In 2023, a tropical cyclone brought similar effects. The flooding sparked Peru's worst ever dengue outbreak. The Peruvian government said it will allocate $1.1 billion to mitigate the impacts of El Niño. And the impacts are already being felt as unusually hot weather has stymied agro-export crops like mangoes. And in the Andean region, drought has compounded the impacts of climate change, putting half of Peru's regions under water emergency.
And after a difficult year for many in Latin America, the United Nations Economic Commission for the region, known as ECLAC, says the economies in Latin America and the Caribbean are expected to post a combined growth of 1.5% in 2024. This rate is half that of the global growth forecast of 3%. The sluggish growth is attributed in part to stubborn inflation in the region and high interest rates that have been slow to come down. And now the answer to our news trivia. The answer is C. Latin America has been the host of the Summer Olympics only 3 times, but in just 2 cities, Rio de Janeiro, while Mexico City was the host back in 1968. And that's it for our special edition. We'll see you again soon on Latin America Now.